What's good, everyone, and welcome back to Kaya's Commentary. And if you're new here, welcome to Kaya's Commentary. This is a podcast that offers commentary on pop culture topics, real world issues, anything in between, and maybe even some advice every now and then. Before we get down to it, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya R. Pennington, and you can follow Kaya's Commentary on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya's Commentary. Also, be sure to hit the follow/subscribe button and the bell so you get notified when new videos drop. Also, much like me, my background is going through changes in life. I am sorry, y'all. I had to take a quick hiatus, and I'm back now because I want to finish out season 3. The podcast does give me so much joy, but personal things have been happening, and so sometimes that has to be put first. But like I said, I do want to come back because the podcast gives me joy, but sometimes it's just gonna take me as I am. I am sorry. I like my background. It feels office-like. But I also do like my backdrop. The only problem is I don't have a stand for it. I didn't realize you had to buy the stand separately. So I don't have a stand for it. So maybe I'll figure out a way to put it back up because I do like it. And I guess it makes it look a little more clean, doesn't it? But also this makes it feel like office-like. Like I'm in my office. It's lived in. Like I like it, but at the same time, y'all let me know which ones y'all prefer. Also, due to it being February, when I do the podcast and it coincides with February, typically I'll do Informational and Educational Black History Month edition as the first segment. But I have 2 reviews today, so to break up the reviews, we'll put that as the second segment. So with that, let's hop into our first segment, Whatcha Reading, where I give my commentary on a book I've read. Today's book, The Shatter Me series by Tahera Mafi. I hope I said that right. So I read this when I was around 17, but I decided to reread it because one, I couldn't remember anything from it. And so I always see people talking about it negatively, and I try not to get upset about the things people opinion about things that I like because what I like doesn't have to be what you like. You're allowed entitled to your own opinions on things, even if it's things that I like. But I couldn't even remember anything from this series to even defend it. So it did kind of irk me that people had this, but I also couldn't remember anything from it to like defend it. So I went back to reread it to be like, is it really that bad? So let's get into it. I will hop off with a quick summary. I don't have the book on hand. One touch is all it takes. One touch, and Juliet Ferris can leave a fully grown man gasping for air. One touch, and she can kill. No one knows why Juliet has such incredible power. It feels like a curse, a burden that one person alone could never bear. But the reestablishment sees it as a gift, sees her as an opportunity for a deadly weapon. Juliet has never fought for herself before, but when she's reunited with the one person who ever cared about her, she finds a strength she never knew she had. So, it's a YA dystopian book, and the reestablishment, so YA dystopian, so modern day America as we know it, wiped away. The reestablishment promises that they will take care of everything, that they'll clean everything up, but in order to do that, differences have to be wiped away. This is why dystopian to me is just like such a interesting concept. It's almost on the same level as like Afrofuturism to me, as far as reality. Because why do differences make you dangerous? Why does differences have to be wiped away for us to have this pleasant life? Oh, differences are what tore us apart. Like when people say dystopian is just such childlike and it's not. Like literally 2020, I stand by that in 2020 we lived through the Hunger Games, we lived through Divergent, and we lived through the Maze Runner all in one. Like dystopian is so real to me. It's realism to me. Um, so it being dystopian, this reestablishment promises that they'll clean everything up, but differences have to go away. Religion gone, sexuality to that point gone, any difference, race gone, all of that. Just we are the same. Um, so Juliet Fair, she has these powers, and she's always been picked on for it, even by her parents, or so we think are her parents, but I'll come back to that. Because her parents aren't exempt from this power, so she can't touch them. They're cruel to her. Oh, such a burden that we have to take care of you. You're such a burden. People at school pick on her, and so she never hits back. And so one of the things that is constantly used to describe her is her innocence, her hauntingly beautiful look. She is so beautiful, apparently, and her innocence. She never struck back in the face of cruelty. One time when she was 14, she was trying to help this child who was being neglected by their mother or caretaker or whatever, what have you, but she can't touch people, but she was trying to help. But when she touched the child, she accidentally took him out. So that was when she was 14. Her parents finally gave her up to be locked away in an insane asylum. And there she has rotted for some years. She's 17 now. Um, so she is in this insane asylum. She gets this roommate, Adam, and he comes in being a jerk because he's trying to assert dominance. He's trying to see if she's crazy or not. He finds out that she's not crazy, and she actually kind of takes care of him and shows him the way of the asylum. And we find out that it was all a trick. Um, Started by Aaron Warner. And I'll go back in between calling him Aaron and Warner. So when I say Aaron, I mean Warner. When I say Warner, I mean Aaron. They are one and the same. So he was trying to figure out if she was crazy or not, if she actually deserved to be in this insane asylum or not. So we find out that she's not. We find out the person that they put her in there with, Adam, he's a soldier, and it was a trap. So Aaron pulls her out of the insane asylum, and then he gives her a room, and he's trying to study her. He puts her through a whole bunch of simulations and tries to make her touch him to see how deadly she is. He forces her to touch one of his soldiers so that they can see how deadly she is. Now, Aaron and Juliet are actually in game, and I'll come back to that. But reading the first book, I was just really sitting here thinking, how did they end up being in game? He puts her in a simulation room. She doesn't know it's a simulation room until like book 3 or book 4, and she has to touch a child. She's trying to save the child because the room is kind of like a torture. It's a simulation, but she thinks it's a torture room, and drills and arrows come out from the floor, from the wall, so she has to save the child. It makes her upset to the point that she bursts through concrete wall. Aaron is poking at her, trying to find out what her powers are, and he's very much a people have been so cruel to you. You have the power to take that back. You just need to figure out how to use it. And I'm trying to help you use it, but I'm also trying to figure out what you can do. We also find out that Adam, she and Adam went to school together. He never talked to her, but not because of fear, but because he never got the chance to. He always admired her, her niceties, her not being cruel in the face of cruelty. And he himself has known cruelty. His father used to beat on him a lot. And so he knows what that's like to take that and still try to remain true to yourself. So he tells Juliet, hey, it was a trap. It's not what you think. He ends up trying to break her out of the establishment. Before we go, we also find out that he can touch Juliet, and we'll find out why later. Aaron is trying to stop them from breaking out. We find out that he can touch Juliet. We'll find out why later. And so book 1 consists of Juliet and Adam running from the establishment. We meet Kinjay, who is also a soldier, and he and Adam were friendly on base. So he's tortured because they were friendly. And he goes to Adam's house, who no one is supposed to know where Adam lives, but he does. And he's like, I can take you to this place that's safe. And this place is Omega Point. And we find out that Juliet is not the only one with special powers. Kinjay has the power of invisibility, which is why he knows where Adam lived. He followed him home one time. So he, Adam, Juliet, and Adam's little brother, James, his 10-year-old little brother, they go to this Omega Point, and we find out that Castle, who is the leader of Omega Point, he's a telepath, I believe. And we find out all these other people. We see 2 twins who have incredible healing powers. We find out that Adam might be special as well, so they run tests on him. And book 1 kind of ends. Oh, we also meet Anderson, who is Warner's dad, and we find out how cool he is. And he and Juliet meet, and she ends up taking out his legs, or to the point where he needs a cane. And book 1 ends with Juliet being like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to control my powers and take down the reestablishment. Book 2, Adam and Juliet, they're at Omega Point. They're beginning to have problems. The reason that Adam can touch Juliet is because he can disable a person's power only for so long. However, due to the fact that he can't control his power yet and she can't control hers yet, when he touch her, it's really harming him. And so Juliet breaks up with him as a I love you, but I need to protect you. Don't you just hate that trope? It really kind of works here, but don't you just hate that trope? So They break up, and Adam really doesn't want to be broken up, so there's a lot of drama with that. Also, when Juliet finds out about Adam's the testing that they're doing on Adam, she loses her mind, she freaks out. Now, granted, people were going all over her head. Kendra was like, "Oh, it's not my secret to tell." Adam's like, "I'm not gonna tell you yet." Castle's like, "I can't tell you yet," but and so when she finally finds out, it is aggravating to have people go over your head like that. But when she finally finds out before Castle can even explain to her what she's doing, she throws her fist into the ground and almost takes out the entire Omega Point safe haven, Castle's entire work. And so he's rightfully aggravated with her. Um, and that's a problem that I'm going to come back to. But we find out that that's why Adam can touch her and that they have to stay away. And so they get into a lot of drama. Now, granted, 17, Juliet, 18, Adam, I think, 19, and later 20, Warner. So yeah, teenage drama. But at the same time, ooh, we doing our drama all on in the cafeteria and the hallways. And now they were never Juliet and Adam when they got to Omega Point, they were never able to find time alone together. Because boys and girls sleep in different dorms. And so either they can't find time alone together or they're always arguing. It's a lot of teenage drama and it was just exhausting. So we also get a novella in between Shatter Me and the next book, which is in Warner's POV, which we see his mind. We see he's not such a psychotic person. I always wonder how Juliet and Warner got together based on book one because he was very cruel, seemed to be psychotic, seemed to be very much a, oh, I can help you with your power. I love you like no one else can. Seemed to be like just obsessed in a way that didn't make sense because you don't know her either. So it's clearly unhealthy. And then we find out that he reads her journal and she has all her thoughts there. And he gets to understand her more. We get to understand that he was doing things, really trying to help her, really trying to figure out the best way to do things. So we get to a point where Adam and Juliet meet up again. Not Adam, Aaron and Juliet. So they meet up again in the first book, but she shoots him. And so when they meet up again, he's kind of heartbroken. And he's telling her he's not quiet about the fact that he's in love with her. And you think that it's like it's an obsession and not love, but it actually ends up being love, I suppose. So Castle gives her the assignment of interviewing him and trying to get him to come on their side because he might have powers too because he can touch Juliet and he does have powers. His power is that he can not neutralize because Adam neutralizes. He can take another person's power and redirect it. So when he touches Juliet, he's taking her power and he can redirect it, but mainly their powers cancel each other out, almost like they're fated to be together. So Anderson is not in a hurry to get his kid back, and they were going to use him as leverage because when they went up against the reestablishment before, he took some of their people, but he's not in a hurry to get his kid back. He doesn't care about him. He's very abusive to Warner. We also find out that Anderson, Warner's dad, is Adam's dad. They're half brothers, which makes it even more complicated because Adam hates Warner because Warner, he tortured him, he beat him up, he made him do things. So that makes it even more complicated. And the fact that Juliet is starting to feel Aaron. So Aaron is like, I want you to come with me. And because I'm going to leave this place, I'm not going to stay here. Juliet is like, no, you should stay here and fight with us. And he talks to her about how he wants to be her quote unquote friend. He does, because she's like, maybe we could be friends. And he's like, oh, I want to be a friend. I want to be the friend that makes your heart beat faster. I want to be the friend that you think about in the morning, your first thought, and your last thought before you go to bed is me. I want to be that friend. I want to be the friend that, and then we get to talking a little spicy. I want to be the friend that does this. I want to be the friend that does that. And so Juliet gets caught up in it, and then she remembers Adam, which kind of hurts Warner because, like, literally we are in the midst of a makeout scene, and Adam, he's like, okay. So he ends up leaving, and Omega Point goes up against the reestablishment, and they fail. Juliet gets captured again. Anderson has captured the healing twins. He forces them to heal him, and then he shoots Juliet in the chest in front of Aaron. Aaron, who loves Juliet, is distraught and he goes to the twins. He gets them to save her. And Juliet wakes up in Aaron's room on the compound thinking everyone's dead. He tells her Omega Point is gone. Everyone's gone. Juliet is like, no, that can't be true. We have to find some type of rebels and take on the reestablishment. Book three, um, so we end up finding out that while Omega Point is gone, there are a handful who are left, including Adam, James, Kenjay, Castle, the twins who are in Anderson's captive. They're Anderson's captives, and some others. And so they're all at Adam's house as a refugee, a safeguard. And they all find out that Juliet's alive, and it's like, oh, awesome. And they see her with Warner, and they're like, well, what are you doing? And then Adam finds out that she's aligned with Warner in war. Mind you, war makes strange bedfellows, right? But Adam is like, oh no, I felt better when I thought you were dead. You with him? And she's like, we're allied because we're trying to figure out how to stop Anderson. And everyone else is like, yeah, we'll go to war with you. And he's like, have y'all lost your mind? And to be fair, that's a fair, we tried once, didn't go well, people got captured. We tried again, everything's gone. But at the same time, like, you have a little brother to think about, which is why he's like, no, I'm not gonna fight. But at the same time, what kind of world is that for your little brother to live in? And so he kicks her out. He's like, you better, he calls her stupid in front of everybody. He's like, oh, I felt better when I thought you were dead. He's like, if you want to be with him, go be with him. Teen drama stuff. And it's like, we're in the middle of a war. People are dying. And so she goes back to Warner to live on base with him. And then the others end up showing up. And Kendra finally gets Adam to come back. He tells Adam that, oh, actually, Juliet is still in love with you. And Juliet was like, that's not it at all. I'm not in a relationship with Warner, with Aaron, but at the same time, I'm not, we're over, okay? Because I care about you, but I'm not going to hurt you. However, you're not going to be talking to me the way you talk to me. Because he does get upset again. And she's like, you're not going to be talking to me any kind of way, which thank you, because when he was going off on her, that's all I wanted her to say. All throughout the series, when he started acting like I'm a good guy, and I was the first person to show you niceness, so I deserve something. I'm owed for that. I wanted her to shut him down so bad, and she finally loses. She's like, you're not gonna keep talking to me the way you do. And Kenjay, who quickly befriends Juliet, so he's defending Juliet, and Adam's like, oh, you want her too? You want her too? Well, you can have her too. And he takes Kenjay's hand and Juliet's hand and kind of forces her to touch him, which could have hurt Kenjay. And it didn't, because Juliet can now control her powers, and Adam can now control his powers too, which is why he's upset. He's like, I told you I could get control of it and that we could be together. And she's like, even if you did, I'm not at that point anymore. But he gets upset about that. And Kenjay has to go and handle him. And somehow this makes Juliet realize that she wants to be with Warner. Like, Warner could always touch her and it didn't harm him. And so Warner, while he's always been open about, hey, I love you, but he's also like, I'm not going to keep putting myself on the line for you to say no and just, to the point, because like when they were making out, she called out Adam's name. And so he's like, I'm not going to put myself on the line for you to do that to me again. But she finally runs up to him. She's like, I love you. It's always you. We can be together now. You're not a monster. And they do their thing, if you get my drift. And then they go and take on the reestablishment. Juliet reveals that she's alive because people thought that she was dead. She's got control of her powers. She gets control of the soldiers. They take on Anderson. She takes him out. 2 shots, one for Warner, one for Adam. Should have been 3 shots, because one for her, because he shot her in the chest too. And then it's like, I am the leader of North America now. And that's really book 3. It really ends on a final note, book 3 does. And when I read this, I thought it was a trilogy. And then I found out later that no, we got 3 more books. I think that was like 2019, 2020, 2021, maybe even 22. But when I read this was a trilogy. So that's the main trilogy. And now book 4, 5, and 6 is really going to be a real quick recap because I didn't even make it through those books. So book 4, it's not the reestablishment, it's a reconstruction. And Juliet is trying to figure out the best way to rule. She and Warner all together, Aaron, they're together, and when they're together, all they do is be together. If you get my drift, mind you, this is a YA book. 16, 17, 18 YA, I think, but still a YA book. So they are constantly getting together, but he's also very much I believe that you can do anything you put your mind to, which again, tell me why I was supposed to be rooting for Adam when Warner is sitting here, although crazed, Warner is sitting here like, you can do anything you put your mind to. Adam wanted her to be docile sometimes. He wanted her to be needing to be protected. And when she was no longer that girl, he got mad. Mind you, he never talked. I'm going to come back to that. I'm gonna come back to Adam. But Aaron was like, you can do anything you put your mind to. However, Castle's like, maybe it is best, since you have no knowledge of how to rule, that you talk to Aaron about that because he was groomed to take over and rule, and she just doesn't want to. And Aaron also kind of doesn't even offer help much. Now he knows that she probably doesn't want his help a lot, but and he does have faith in her, but also he's kind of not grieving his dad because it's a strange feeling. He hated his dad. His dad was abusive, but also his dad's gone now, so there's a feeling of that. He finds out that he and Adam and James are half brothers, so they kind of reconcile a little bit, but obviously not much. Adam actually, after book three, Adam's gone. We don't see him till like the very, very end in the novel of their wedding, of Juliet and Aaron's wedding, and that's just in mentioning. Um, so, well, we see him somewhat in book four where they have a talk and Juliet notes that he's depressed and stuff. And so you think something's gonna come of that, but then I don't think we see him again. But to be fair, I didn't finish it. Other leaders, children's come and visit because they're trying to scope out Juliet and how she's a leader. And you clearly see that she's not up to it as much as she should be, and Warner should be helping her, and he's not. And then that's where I stopped, is that Castle informs Aaron that Juliet has actual different parents, real parents that are coming to get her. So apparently, and this is where messy series, it gets to messy to me. Complications of drawing out the rebuild, the aftermath. Juliet has a sister that died. Her real parents, who still suck because they gave both her and her sister up to the reestablishment to be experimented on, and her sister's been experimented to the point that she is so sickly. Her real name isn't even Juliet. It's Ella Summers. She ends up taking out her parents, both of them. She and Aaron actually knew each other, but they kept getting their memories wiped. But somehow they always ended up coming together, so they're fated. Also, like, I think that Aaron's dad comes back. I'm not sure, but Aaron has a line in it is like, even though my dad may be back from the dead, he comes back, and then Juliet loses control. She's no longer the leader. That's about as much as I remember from doing my research. I'm sure that they end up taking Anderson out again, and that they end up taking out the reestablishment once and for all. And then she and Aaron get married in the novella that's at the very end, and we don't even actually see the ceremony. It's that whole book is from Aaron's POV, and he's kind of like insecurities about how could she want me after all of this, and we're still together, and his refusal to acknowledge that people are willing to be his friend. The messy complications of drawing out the aftermath, the rebuild. But overall, that's pretty much the series. Book 1 through 3, which I read, and then book 4, 5, 6, which I sped through. So sorry I can't give you a complete review, but let's get into my thoughts of my knowledge of that I do have. Juliet slash Ella, very naive, but she's young, she's 17, but it gets to a point where it's a little annoying, especially when she wouldn't ask Aaron for help in leading, because like, you don't know what you're doing, and people are looking at you crazy, and you refusing to ask him for help and willing to look crazy because you don't know shows your lack of knowledge furthermore. Like, it doesn't help your cause. The constant apologizing, she grew up thinking, okay, if I could do this a certain way, if I could do that a certain way, and be docile, and when it doesn't work out, I have to constantly apologize. And the only reason it was annoying because she had lines in there where she was like, okay, I am tired of apologizing. And it's like, sis, me too. I'm tired of you apologizing too. Stop. Acknowledge, hey, this is who I am. Like, you would, and she kind of does get into that evolution, because you think her character evolution would be like, oh, she's constantly apologizing and then she stops, and she does, but to me she should have stopped sooner. And then her anger issues, her finding out that the experiments that they're running on Adam and having him strapped down, and before Castle can even explain, she takes her fist and throws it into the floor, nearly taking out the entire Omega Point safe haven, and taking out Castle's work. And he was real mad at her, and he should have been. Like, I get it. It's annoying people talking over your head like that. But at the same time, when I'm trying to explain to you because you found out and now you won't even listen, and you almost took my entire legacy, my entire work, these people's lives out, that was real aggravating too. Like, she's young and naive. Aaron Warner, should have been dual POV starting in book one, because he does come off as real cruel and psychotic at times. And again, I found myself pointing on book one. How do they end up being in game? Self-doubts later on in the series. Oh, how could she love me? Oh, this, oh, that. Refusal to acknowledge the gaining of friendships. We all the way at the end in the wedding book, and Kenji is like better about him being there because Kenji has problems with him too. And so he's like, he's talking to Kenji, and he's like, "What do you want?" And Kenji really does look hurt. And he's like, "I thought we were past that." Like, if you don't believe that I'm here for you as you are, maybe I shouldn't be. That was tiring. Adam gave "I'm a good guy" energy, putting aside the knowledge that Aaron and Juliet were in game. I never truly bought Adam and Juliet. Never. Maybe it's because he gave off "I'm a good guy, I was the first person to show you niceness," or the fact that he was the first person to show her niceness, and so she automatically ended up falling in love with him. Like, I just never bought it. And when he and Juliet were no longer together, he threw a fit. Now, like, he got reasonable trauma, especially about Aaron. Aaron tortured him, and especially about him, Aaron, and Juliet being together. But giving off this whole "I was the only one nice to you when no one else was, so therefore I'm owed," that was wild. Like, he had a crush on her in childhood. Mind you, he never talked to her. And so the Juliet that he thought he knew was something he made up in his head, and when she no longer fit that, he got mad. And Juliet and Kenji have lines in there. Kenji is like, "Yeah, I think you and Adam were default love because he was the first person to show you niceness, so you feel like that's what it should have been, and he felt like that's what it should have been because he admired you." And then Juliet's like, "Yeah, I think he wanted me to be this girl who needed defending, and now that I'm not that," like, why was I supposed to root for him? And he got mad cruel. Like, I get being mad, but he got mad cruel. Like, he gets over it. He moves on. At the end, in the wedding book, we do see him with somebody else, but that's just a mentioning. But I don't know if I can fully 50-50. Like, he just gave weird energy, man. At least Aaron was honest about what he was and how he might not change much. Adam, anyway, Kenji, great comic relief. Like, I don't have any real issues with him. I like that he met Juliet and was automatically willing to, and he ends up being such a great confidant. Like, love Kenji. Probably the best thing about the entire series. Love triangle. People are dying. Like, I'll be the first to defend the Hunger Games quote-unquote love triangle because it's more than the standard teenage drama. Here, though, we having brawls and all types of stuff in the hall and the dining room. Like, it's just exhausting. It was exhausting. And I can't even say it was exhausting because I'm older now, because I just know 17-year-old Kaya had to be rolling her eyes at that because it was exhausting. People are dying and you sitting here, "Oh, you like him more? Huh? You want to be with him? Well, go be with him." You're going to almost take out somebody, try to kill somebody or hurt somebody because she trying to strategize war. Like, it was exhausting. And then we have the spice scenes. Mind you, this is a YA, and I'm thinking 16, 17, 18, even 19. But some of the, I'm fine with putting fluff and spice scenes in YA because at this point, 16, 17, 18, 19, you're having thoughts or exploring. So I'm fine, but putting fluff and spice, like level 3 spice, if you go above a level 3, make it a new adult. Because now this might be because I'm older, but that was why, especially when we get to the wedding book. Now he has a line in here where he's like, "I'm gonna marry you today, Aaron. I'm gonna marry you today, and then I'm gonna make love to you until you can't remember your name." One, I have to believe that. That has to be believable. And I'm not saying it wasn't, because whenever Juliet and Aaron were together, that's seemingly all they did. They really were passionate about each other and they had other love. But at the same time, make it new adult, because having stuff like that, he's 20 by this time at the very end. I'm assuming she's like 18 or 19. Like, make it a new adult so that the spice scenes are appropriate. and that you can flesh it out more than just the standard teenage love drama. Also, Juliet, Ella, I get no, I can't, unless it's like in a fantasy and it's a princess thing, prince thing. Oh, your real name is Prince Castle, dot, and you were always living as Ronan. Like, I get it, changing your name then, but outside of that, I don't get changing your name. Like, you have always been Juliet Ferris. You might not claim your last name, but you've always been Juliet. You've always answered to Juliet. If you didn't, and honestly, I kind of get changing the name because I guess Anderson gave her Juliet because he always knew her as Ella, but you don't know Ella. And so, come up with a whole new name. Like, you're not Juliet, you're not Ella, you're something else. Like, I've never gotten that. Overall, I don't think it's bad or boring. Sometimes nothing really happens. Like, I was reading the first book and it dawned on me, oh, I'm 24 chapters in, and no action still has yet to happen. But I don't think it's boring. I think it just tried to do too much. Like I said, make it new adult, so teenage drama is not a thing. You can flesh out the romance and the pick me sides. And so the spice scenes are appropriate. Age them up as well, so the spice scenes are appropriate. To change the world. Like, I don't know if it needed to be dystopian to the point that it was, because you have such big issues, and then we focus on, do you like me or him more, check yes or no. But then when they got into the dystopian of it, I was also finding that I didn't care as much as I should have. Like, it doesn't have to be fully contemporary, but maybe more fantasy. Maybe more fantasy than dystopian. Like Evil King or something, and then it would make sense. Like, Aaron is a prince, and then Adam is a prince, and you Loki versus whatever, Jester versus the devil, whatever, two sides that you have to choose from, and then you actually making sense as to why a 17-year-old think they're gonna rule and try to rule. Because I've always felt that, like, if it's gonna be a fantasy, have some type of overarching evil king, evil queen. So with a bit of tweaking, this could have been much better fantasy than I feel like dystopian. Like, something about it being full-blown dystopian just didn't sit well with the characters and their issues to me. I feel like you could have made it a fantasy with a bit of tweaking, and I think I would have been a tad bit more invested in it, especially when we got to the, oh, we're gonna go to war scenes. Overall, 6 out of 10. Like, I don't think it's so bad, but 6 out of 10. With that, let's kick it into our second segment, Informational and Educational Black History Month edition, where I drop a Black History fact every week of February. So on Twitter and Instagram, I do this daily, so be sure to follow me there. And on TikTok, I do it weekly. And honestly, as opposed to recording 2 videos, because I'll record it for the podcast. If the podcast in February coincide, I'll record it for the podcast, and then I'll record it separately for its own TikTok video. I think I'm just gonna cut this out and then put it on my main page as a TikTok video, because honestly, I'm still dealing with stuff, so I don't know if I'll have the time to record 2 separate videos, and sometimes memorization is a little hard, depending on the fact. So I'm gonna try to do it once, and if the podcast ends before February is over, then I'll go back to doing singular TikTok videos. So let's get into it. I begin every February with what is Black History Month and why do we celebrate it in February? All information for this fact comes from history.com. So, Black History Month actually started out as Negro History Week, and it was created in 1926 by Carter G. Woodson, who is dubbed as the father of Black history for his extensive works in the study of African American history. Now, Negro History Week wouldn't become Black History Month until its 1976 ratification by then-President Gerald Ford. And we celebrate it in February because it coincides with both Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln's birthdays. And that's why we celebrate Black History Month within the shortest month. As I said, I will often start off every February with this because I'm sure there are just some people out there who just don't know why we celebrate Black History Month within the shortest month. Up until some years ago, even I didn't know. Now, why do we still celebrate it within just the shortest month, and can we elongate that somehow? I feel is the better question. But there are a number of things a person can do to celebrate Black History Month, even if you're not Black. You can spread Black history facts like this. You can buy and support from Black-owned businesses, or support Black podcasts. Guys, commentary, check me out, just saying. You can be an overall ally to the Black Lives Matter movement, and much, much more. So I'll end this with stay educated, and I'll see you next week for your next Black History fact. Now, with that, let's kick it into our third and final segment, What's on TV, where I give my commentary on a TV show I've seen. Today's show, Fox's Bones. Now, I used to watch this when I was a kid. I'm sorry, y'all. I watched so many procedurals back then. If the storyline was good enough to keep me entertained, propaganda didn't matter to me. Like, I watched a lot. And so, one of the things that made me want to watch this was one, I was in this void where I really miss shows that had like really long seasons and like episode like 12 seasons max or whatever, and then like 22 episode seasons. Um and Bones was one of them. So I was in that void, and so I went to watch it because I was like, what made me like this in the first place? And how did Bones and Booth get together? Because it's a procedural, slow burn with the two main characters. Of course it is. So I couldn't remember how they got together. So I wanted to watch it to see. And also, this is based off the life of a real life anthropologist. Her books, I believe, Kathy Richards. I can't, her last name forgets me. I didn't know that though. I didn't know that when I was younger, even though they had it in the little caption in the credits. I didn't know that. So we have characters. We have Temperance Brennan, or Bones, and I'm going to come back to anthropologist, and she works with the FBI, specifically Seeley Booth, who is her love interest. They solve crimes, and because she's an anthropologist, she mainly works on forensics and bones. That way they solve crime using the bones of people. Zach, her intern. Angela, who is the artist, she's a reconstruction artist. Jack Hodgins, he's the butt guy. I forget the scientific name for that. And the therapist, Lance Sweets, and he comes in later. Now, like I said, this is a procedural. It's a slow burn between Brennan or Bones. I'll call her Bones, and Booth. So Bones is one of those quote-unquote too smart people. That was my first impression. I later learned that she might be on the spectrum. I feel like too smart still kind of stands. Like, she rarely understands pop culture and the quote-unquote, for lack of better words, quote-unquote simple things. She would have a line in there that'd be like, I don't know what that means as far as pop culture reference goes. Even still, I feel like there was a shift between season 1 and the later seasons where she has some clarity and understanding of pop culture things, certain pop culture things, to when it's more played up that she's so smart she doesn't understand that, which is why I say it feels like she's so smart, because like she doesn't have a TV, but in episode 1 she does, but in later episodes and seasons she doesn't. She doesn't read comics, and yet she knows who Wonder Woman is, although that was based on the non-comic non-canon comic Wonder Woman with Linda Carter. So you do have a TV? You do know what that is? Like, she, one of those. Above all, she's insufferable. I'm sorry. Rewatching this as an adult, Bones was insufferable, especially with that I don't work on bones. Booth will call her up sometimes. I don't work on flesh. Booth will call her up sometimes, and when he would call her up and it would be flesh on the bones, she'd be like, I don't work on bones, on flesh. Why am I here? I have so much to do. And that was funny one time. But Booth is your partner. He know you busy. So he not calling you up and having you come down and work on flesh. Like, obviously there's a significance to this set of bones, to this flesh, as to why you're here. Like, there's significance. It was funny once, aggravating all the other times. She's just really not likable to me. Same with Zach, as far as being quote unquote too smart. He's really smart and often doesn't understand pop culture. Around season 3, they align him with the serial killer, Gormagon, who was tormenting the team. Season 3 was also a shortened season, and I'm going to come back to that. And he did it because he thought he saw logic in Gormagon's message. My opinion of him is indifferent. Like, people got mad when they wrote him off, because they do write him off in season 3, but he comes back occasionally, but they do write him off. My opinion, and people were mad about that, my opinion is indifference. Like, he was neither an annoyance to me, but he wasn't one of my favorite characters either. He was just there. They did kind of walk back him, like, killing for Gormagon. So in season 3, we see one of Gormagon's apprentices, and he's hiding in a closet, and he's ready to take out somebody. I stand by the fact that was that actor. That was Zach in that closet. That hairline, that was that actor. I recognize the hairline. Angela is a free spirit artist and she really kind of embodies the whole stereotype. She's sexually fluid. She had her hippie phase. She did, like, she's really embodies the free spirit artist stereotype. But she's probably one of the most likable characters to me, her and Cam, and I'm gonna come back to Cam. And she's really loyal to Bones, even when Bones is wrong. Bones and Cam get off on the wrong foot, and the team ends up siding with Bones. Now, Bones is mad because Cam got the job over Bones, and Cam is like, you don't have the personal skills and likability to be like, not necessarily likability, but like friendliness always to have this job. And Bones is just like, but I'm smarter than you. But I'm smarter than you, so I should have had that job. And so Cam is like, okay, if this is gonna be a problem, you can step. And Angela and all of the other people are like, and Bone and Booth too is like, okay, well if you fire her, we're gonna go. I'm with Cam though. This is work, and you can't always get your way, especially when you're wrong. You don't have the interpersonal skills to have this job. That's one of the main. You think smarts matter, and they do, but at the same time, it's like you have to be likable, and not to say you're not likable, but like you have to be likable. Um, and Angela's siding with her, like I'm with Cam. And Cam, like, if you can't put your personal feelings aside to get the job done, step. And Cam really kind of says that. She's like, because Angela tells her as much, and Cam is like, okay, I'm not. I hear you. Bones is important. I will start looking for y'all replacements though. She never does, but like, yes, because this is work. I know can't nobody do what you do, but if you're gonna throw a temper tantrum because I got a job over you, step. But yes, Angela's mostly cool. Cam, also mostly cool. She can be a hard ass sometimes, but she's really cool. And she also has a past with Booth. They were lovers, so that kind of complicates things for Booth and Bones. They were gonna kill off Cam, but I guess she ended up being a fan favorite too because they end up saving her and keeping her. Booth is a total douche. This is supposed to be the love interest. This is supposed to be the guy we're rooting for. He's a total douche. Insufferable. He's a soldier and he definitely plays up the Uncle Sam's son role. Like I had to skip certain episodes when I felt like they were going to get too much into the America is such a great place and I love my country. Like I had to skip those episodes. And I hated how he treated Zach and Sweets. And that goes for Bones too as far as Sweets. Now Zach was shy and awkward and quote unquote he was smart. He didn't get everything, but he wanted to, and he really looked up to Booth as a manly figure. Only for Booth to be a complete dictant. Like Booth was a horrible character. I hated him. Insufferable. Sweets was a therapist and he studied Booth and Bones' relationship and he often prodded at their relationship to kind of get them to reveal their true feelings for one another. Um, Booth doesn't count that as a real job, and Bones doesn't believe in psychology. So she doesn't see the science in it. So she and Booth kind of belittle him, especially when they first meet. Um, and when his time is up, because he only is studying them for a couple months, and then his time is up, and he wants to continue studying them. They let him, but like, why? Why do you want to keep studying them when they constantly belittle you? Why do you let him keep studying y'all when y'all constantly belittle him? And it's not some funny, oh, this is a relationship type thing to me. It was weird and disrespectful. And I wanted him once to stand up to them. Like when he comes on the scene, Booth refuses to call him Dr. Sweets or even Sweets. He calls him Lance, his first name, because he's young and they don't feel like he's accomplished enough. But put some respect on Lance Sweet's name, Dr. Lance Sweet's name, and his degrees, which he does have. Especially when he's right. So the episode, there's a stalker lady and they're interviewing her, trying to see if she's a killer. She's not. But when Booth goes to interview her, Sweets is like, do not touch her, don't give her any, don't be overtly sweet to her, don't give her nothing that kind of like lets her latch onto you. And Booth ignores him. And then she starts showing up to Booth's place. She starts giving him gifts, and Sweets is like, this is how it starts. And Booth continues to ignore him. And so when Stalker Lady sees how Booth and Bones interact, she goes to shoot Bones and ends up shooting Booth. And then Bones ends up shooting her. Like, he was right. And you would think that that would give him some type of credibility, but no. They still play up this, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And then they kill him off a couple seasons later because the actor wanted to do some directing. Hodgins was pretty cool. He's a conspiracy theorist scientist, so that tracks, I guess. I guess. He and Angela are a thing. I don't really have any real. He was cool. Overall, did this show need 12 seasons? No, it did not. And I think the only reason it did was because of technicalities. Some seasons got shorter seasons, some seasons got longer seasons. That could have been due to strikes, to production things, pregnancies. I think Emily Deschanel gets pregnant, so um, they have to write that in. Emily Deschanel and David freak, what's his last name forgets me. They were supposed to direct some episodes, and so they don't end up getting to do that when they said that they were going to, so they have to go back and let them direct these episodes. I think the only reason it got 12 seasons was due to technicalities. Like, don't get me wrong, I love and very much miss 12 seasons, 22 episode seasons, but they dragged this out and it did not need to be. They dragged out Bones and Booth for 7 seasons when it could have been like around 4 or 5. But then the team splits up and they come back, and Booth has a girlfriend now, even though him and Bones are very much in love with each other at this point. They just don't admit it. Like, why are you sitting here playing with my feelings when you could have go be with her? When they finally get together is because Bones is emotional of that one of her interns died, which justice for Nigel, because he did not have to die. He ended up being a victim to one of the bad guys who's again has personal beef with Booth. And so the actor wanted to do something else. He had another production commitment, and so they take him out. You don't have to kill off a character to write them out. You didn't do it with Zach. And you brought Zach back in every now and then. You don't have to kill a character to take them out. You could have wrote it in such a way that they're leaving. You could have wrote it in such a way that Sweets is he finally got fed up and was like, I'm gonna go do some other stuff, and leave the door open possibility for him to come back. Like, you don't have to kill a character to be done with them. Like, but the only reason Booth and Bones got together because of the death of her intern, and then they don't even show it. It's just implied. And then it ends with Bones being pregnant because actress was pregnant. And then we get back the next season and they have a kid and they're living together and they're still solving cases. That is not 12 seasons. That's not a 12 season. You 8 at the max, 9 at the max. You honestly could have ended it with them getting together. And I think they have a storyline where Bones has to go on the run, and so she takes their daughter and goes on the run. And so I guess they couldn't leave that open ended, but that's not a 12 season, especially now that I'm older and the main two characters who are supposed to be the most likable and you're rooting for to get together, or you're just rooting for in general, are so insufferable, so unlikable. Like, so unlikable. I don't care for them. I don't care. This show should not have gotten 12 seasons. And I also don't care for the Bones Sleepy Hollow crossover. Fox must have really wanted to do a crossover. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, I'm glad Nicole Bahari got better treatment from the Bones writers, and I also would have loved to see Sweet's analysis of Ickaby. It's probably the same thing about Booth and Bones, but like, still, I would have loved to see that confrontation, but that happened to episode too late, or season too late. But for 11 seasons, there's no mention of August Corbin, Abby Mills, or Small Town Sleepy Hollow. And now all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, I knew Corbin. He talked about you all the time. No, you didn't. And no, he didn't. Because no, you didn't. Like, it just changes the universe. And I don't think people thought about that because they were like, oh, it's not that big a deal that it changes you. But it does. And I guess it's cool to see that supernatural happens in the quote unquote real world. But Bones and Sleepy Hollow were just not compatible enough for me to do that. And it changes the universe of Bones. And I don't think people acknowledge that. Maybe I'm thinking too big about it, but like, that's where my mind goes. Like, Booth, before this episode, Booth did not know nothing about Sleepy Hollow. He didn't know nothing about Abby Mills, and he didn't know no man, no sheriff named August Corbin. Like, weren't CW and Fox in a thing? Because I remember watching Fox sometimes and see CW ads and vice versa. So couldn't you have done just like a supernatural crossover? And I know anything Abby and Crane can do, Sam and Dean have already done, but picture it. Alternate reality. Abby and Crane enter into another universe, and so in their universe we're working, we see Jenny and Joe working, or maybe we don't see them at all, and Abby and Crane meet Sam and Dean. Write it from there. Like, if you wanted to, I'm sorry, like, Bones, the only thing that good came of that is Bones being like, yeah, you should take your relationship into a sexual one, because oof, let me tell you. That's the only thing, the only memorable thing about that. Outside of that, didn't do, I wouldn't even watch. I stopped watching Bones after Sweets died. Like I saw that they marriage episode, and then Sweets dying is the last episodes I remember about Bones. So I had to clock back in just to watch it. I didn't particularly care for it. Overall, 7. I was gonna give it a 7.5, but 7 out of 10 characters, main characters that we're supposed to root for and like and want to be together, unlikable, insufferable. And I just don't see a 12 season show from that. Like I said, I do miss 12 season or longer seasons, 22 episode seasons and longer seasons, longer series. But I think it's also important to know that which ones can and can't, and most importantly, which ones should and shouldn't. And Bones should not have got 12 seasons. Sorry, not sorry. That was rough. I didn't even finish it when I was doing this rewatch. Didn't even finish it. I stopped after one. I was in season 4 and I was like, okay, they still ain't got together. I was halfway through season 4 into season 5 and I was like, they still ain't got together. And I also remember that Booth gets a girlfriend. So where does that come in? And then find out they it's at the end. They season 7 at the end. Like, no, I skipped to the end where they got together, saw how they got together, and was like, I'm done. I'm done. Did not need 12 seasons. With that, that's what's on TV, and that's Kai's commentary. If you like this episode, be sure to like this episode, hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media and Kai's commentary social media. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Be respectful. We can have a conversation with one another, but only if we are respectful. But certainly let me know your thoughts and opinions on any of the segments that I had. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why not? Let me know. Let's talk. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next time.